Usually I do like the mic test is like the little clip thing, and we were just so ready to go. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, this could be a good mic test. Well, we should just go on with the show, right?
Oh, sure. Probably.
All right, the Spoken Poetry Podcast is back. And, it started as poetry and strict poetry, so that's what we're doing, some more poetry. We have Renee Cooper, who is a brilliant poet.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Really?
Well, I've been to be here since the first time I met you. Yeah, and found out.
I don't know how to say how to react to that.
I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like, I love that you have this place where poets can come and talk, and all musicians, and I've seen like all kinds of different people, but it's a really cool place to have some people come and talk about their passions. So yeah. Well,
thank you. And when we say place,
yeah,
I get you looking that way too. Okay. Yeah, that's what we're looking at. Place. Well, this is the Spoken Poetry Podcast, and I've been going to some different locations, doing different things. We are here again tonight at the Ultra Flat Black, and all this cool paintings you see back here are artists who are selling their material at the Ultra Flat Black, and we love it here. We've been doing, and that's where we met, right?
Yeah.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about you, though? Who is Renee Cooper?
I'm a wife. I'm a mother of two littles. I got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. I have been a poet since I was probably 12, and just until recently I've been able to actually bring it out to the world, and so I'm really grateful for that. I'm an artist. I do painting, different types of painting. I can do acrylic, and I do some watercolor. And some digital art too. I'm always creating something, so I was just telling him earlier, I do a lot of crocheting in the fall and winter, like creating random things here and there. I feel like my hands always need to create something, so I guess I'm a wife, mother, creator, and another big thing about me is I'm a Christian, and I wear that title boldly, and anyone who talks to me will hear that. So we will probably hear that a bit more throughout this conversation.
Okay, and there's something else, and I see this thing down here on a camera. You're also an author.
Yes, self-published, but I think it was in May I released this book. It's my first book, and it will not be the last, but it is a lighthearted romance poetry book, and it has my own digital art in it. Kind of see if we can flip through.
Oh, so art we were talking about.
Yeah.
What do we got?
This was my first take at digital art, but yes, I'm very proud of this. I'll tell you a little bit about it. It was kind of made over a period of about 2 years. And I originally did not intend for it to be something that I sold or that it would be public at all. And so it was like after I gave birth to my daughter, who's now 2, I had this influx of like happy oxytocin, like the good feeling hormones, and I just like fell in love again with my husband, like almost infatuation. And I was just had all these feelings, and I would just write poems to kind of channel that. And I ended up writing like so many poems that I was like, okay, I have a lot. I feel like I should put it all in a book so it'll be all in one spot. And so they started accumulating, and at first it was just going to be for me just to have. And then eventually, I just like more and more came, and I thought, I really kind of want to share this with the world. And so because these are very intimate poems, might I add.
Intimate? What does that mean?
Some of them are pretty sexual in nature. I, as a Christian, had this like internal conflict was on the fence of, it's very intimate and personal, and should I keep it private, or will it be perceived wrongly in the Christian community if I, go ahead and make it public? But I know that a lot of times the Christian community kind of makes sex out to be this shameful, dirty, unspeakable thing. So I went to God, as I do with all things that I have questions about, and I prayed about it, and I was reminded of the book in the Bible, Song of Songs. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes.
Song of Songs.
Which one? Which one are we talking about? Because I know there's a lot of sex in the Bible.
Song of Solomon.
Yeah.
And so that's like an entire book. Even if you're like a non-believer, I encourage people to read it because it's beautiful and it's really interesting. But the whole book is inherently sexual, and I read through that again. And it's like you kind of have to read between the lines, like when Solomon's like, your breasts are like twin fawns of a gazelle. So it's like that. But it is. And I was like, it just struck me like, if God was allowing this to be in the Bible, it is not shameful to talk about. I mean, it's beautiful. It's poetic enough to be in the Bible. So I felt like, okay, I felt confident enough to bring it out to the world, because the whole idea of this book is to remind people that love is pure and it's poetic and it's beautiful, and I think sex is just the deepest expression of love. It's not, in today's world, it's very transactional and it leads to a lot of hurt at times, but I wanted to bring this back to wholesome love that and sex is just a reaction of that love, and it's a gift, really. So yeah, it is pretty sexual, and as a Christian, I can proudly say that I have no shame in letting this be open to the world. I want people to be reminded of the beauty of it all.
Speaking of open to the world,
yeah.
Anything in particular maybe you would like to share as far as a poem in here?
Okay, would you guys like a cleaner one, or?
Maybe something that we can do PG-13 or
yes.
I don't know.
I figured. I think this one gives a good feel of how the book is really lighthearted. It almost puts you in a dreamlike state. This one is called The Willow Would Smile. In the sanctuary beneath the willow, languidly I lay. Only light beams through branches and flecks of sun through eyes half closed. A soundtrack of birds and bees. All that's lacking is you, brushing back my curls to plant kisses on forehead and nose. I'd lay back against you, and we'd sink into dreamland together, and the willow would smile at our love.
That's nice. All right, we're back. One thing I have noticed, which is kind of a nice little change of pace for this show, is it seems like a lot of the poets, including myself, tend to write from trauma and write dark things.
Yes.
And you have a joyful kind of happy thing. And what is that like?
Yes, well, this book, I wanted it to be really lighthearted. I wanted it just to bring joy, light, and beauty into this world. And so, not all of mine are happy light, but it is just my general nature. I feel like I focus on the beauty in the world around me, and I'm very optimistic. So, this was an extension of that, but my next book that I'm working on will have some of the trauma from my childhood and some of the deeper, darker things. So yes, not all of it is that, but I mean, when I wrote this, the period of my life was all joy, really. It was, so that's why it's just an extension of that.
Now you said you've been writing since 12?
Yeah, I found some poems in my parents' house before I moved here, from when I was like 12. I think I was in 6th grade. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a whole bunch of, they weren't all great, very cheesy, but that was something I had always tried to do. So. Can
I ask how long that's been? In other words, how old are you now?
25.
Okay.
Don't make me do math. Yeah.
Okay.
25. Yes.
So you're still a heck of a lot younger than me, but you said that this is, it's not new to writing, but it's new to showing the world?
Yes.
Well, what was that like?
I've always wanted to, but it was like I never had a place to, or an outlet to. But see, like where I lived in Kentucky, I lived in a very small city, and there was nothing there for artists, like, or poets or anything like that. And I would look for like poetry open mics or just poetry out loud or slams. There was nothing of that sort. So then I moved here, and I was so grateful that I had the opportunity to, and now I can. And I would post some on like social media that would get like 3 likes, 4 likes. It's not always the best place, because people there are looking for like quick reads or like nothing. A lot of people don't want to read when they're on social media.
I've noticed that from my podcasting,
yeah.
And these like the short snippets get multiple times the views that an actual episode that I'm trying to refer it to. Sometimes I'll have 3 views on the full episode and over 1,000 on the short from the episode, which makes no sense, but I guess. So what other types of writing? Is it all kind of the sexual stuff, or do you got some non-sexual stuff also?
Well, it's like the one I just shared, which is just, it's like I said, it's like a daydream, and that was actually true. I wrote that underneath a willow tree and missing my husband because he was at work. Some of them are based off of, a lot of them are based off of my husband, not all of them, because some of them are based off of just fictional or imaginary thought up things, or like I'm a huge historical romance novel reader, so some of them are actually based off of love between characters of books that I've read, and one of them is based off of Outlander, the series and the show. If you've seen it, Jamie and Claire have like the best chemistry, and I wrote a poem for them actually, like in their perspective.
I was about to say, I want to meet this husband of yours because he must be something amazing. He hasn't been coming out to.
No, he has to watch the kids when I go out. We don't have a reliable babysitter yet, so yeah, I'm so grateful that he allows me to do this while he can watch the kids and take care of them. So
sounds like a nice guy.
He is. He's great. We're actually high school sweethearts.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
And so it's been how many years?
We got married a month after high school. We've been married 7 years.
Well, that's longer than most. It seems like, at least it seems like it. I don't know.
Living in such a small town, I felt like we got a lot of whispers about that, especially in high school, and it's just something you don't hear of. So every year that we have an anniversary, it just feels so great to not just prove everyone wrong who told us this is a bad idea, but just to show everyone that young love can thrive.
And I don't want to get away from that Outlander thing. Is that something you wanted to share?
I can.
All right.
I want to see some more of the fictional type of ones.
Let's do that.
See if I can find it. I'm pretty sure I know it by heart anyway, but just
how big is the book here, by the way?
It's like 60 pages.
And is it like how many poems? Are these all poems?
Yeah, yeah. So about like 60 poems. It's not too big. It's a little one, but okay.
All right.
This one's called A Forbidden Love, and I will tell you a backstory if you are not an Outlander fan. Claire ends up being thrown back through the stones of time and separated from her love, and they have to resume their own lives like they can never be together again. So that's where the inspiration comes from. It's called Forbidden Love. A love hidden in the depths of me. Is a love forbidden, not meant to be? For my thoughts take no heed. My mind slips away to a blurry golden garden planted by your love seed. Will you meet me there, my heart, under the shade of the white pine, where fear and verity part? A love lacking frailty, aching, desperate to be fed, yet alive still on the truth of words once said. Our memories unyielding, vivid as the feelings bound to flee, each pulse of my beating drum echoes the tune of your song to me. But the flame of hope dims, and I see my forbidden love will never be.
That is nice.
Thank you.
And they should use that to promote the show. Although it's also nice when you wrote that it doesn't have to be specific for that show, even though that may be inspiration.
Yeah, like no one will ever know that it was, except if I just, tell people. So that's the cool thing I think about poets is there's always hidden messages behind every poem. Like you have to really ask and get to the mind of the poet to fully understand a lot of the poems, I think.
Do you find yourself trying to write in a way that is more specific to you versus general for anyone, or vice versa kind of thing? Yeah,
I feel like I don't really write for what the world necessarily needs to hear. Well, at least not with this book. Mm-hmm. It was a way to channel whatever I'm feeling and process a lot of things that I got going on. And if the world accepts it, or there's some people that might relate, maybe not, but it's there. It's I try not to conform what I write to what I think people need to hear. But my next book it's got a whole blend of everything. It's gonna have a lot of, like I said, some childhood trauma. So it's gonna be in 3 sections of nature, which is my biggest muse. That's that's the core of who I am, I feel like. Nature, and then human nature, which will have some trauma, some of the deep things that I've gone through, and just observations of humans in general. And that might be more curated to people because they can relate to a lot of the things like that. And then the last section is the nature of God. So really touches on who he is to me and sheds a different light on him than what the world usually perceives.
Awesome, and also file slice time. So as we were talking, you have some different materials coming out. So before we move away from the current set though, because we have this book for sale.
Yes.
So let's get it nice up to the camera here. We'll have to get a good still shot later.
Yeah.
But what is the title? Where can you find it and all that good stuff?
It's As We Become One, and it is available at barnesandnoble.com. Yes.
Okay. Not on like Amazon yet.
No, only Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble. Is that like an exclusive thing?
Yeah. That's where I self-publish through, and that they're the only ones that's currently. You can buy from.
Actually, you might give some good information to people like me and maybe a few other guests who, or viewers, I should say, who are looking to maybe publish. What was that like as far as Amazon, or looking at? Because I've heard some people say Amazon, you do Barnes and Noble.
I thought it was fairly easy. My husband helped with like the technological things because I'm horrible at technology, and when the computer became involved, I was like, help. Like I don't even know how to upload a file, like it's bad. So if you can do those things and you are fluent in those things, it should be a breeze. I think they make the process very easy. And yeah, I think I'm gonna probably go through them again. So I don't know. Some people do say Amazon's better. I think Amazon, Jacinda was telling me maybe that they take less of the profits than Barnes & Noble does.
How much is the book?
It's $15.99, I think.
Okay.
Something like that. So yeah, just around $15.
Okay.
Plus shipping.
And by the way, you're not exactly getting rich. I mean, you have to pay. I mean, this is a lot of investment in these, I imagine.
Well, it's like I said, Barnes & Noble does take like 40%, so I really only get like 6+ per book. So it's really not as much as you would think. So yeah, and I mean, money's not like the biggest thing. I just really want it to be read. So I mean, that's not really the big thing for me anyway. I tried to make it really affordable for that reason.
Now, you're working on something else already, and we talked about the different kinds of things. Has it been like since you were 12, like these kind of themes, or is there like, how has the writing kind of process been over your life?
Looking back, and I was like, when I did read through some of my old poems, there was one about like dragons and just mystical fantasy things. But there was some that I wrote when I was going through a really rough spot in my childhood about my parents and stuff. So I think it was really just me. And I remember, my English teacher would give us prompts, and I wrote one about zombies and cupcakes. Like I can write about very random things as long as I'm given a prompt. So it's always been like just a blend of everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The nerd in me wants to hear about the dragons and the zombies.
Yeah, I do not have that one on me. Oh. It's cheesy, I'll tell you that.
Give me a line. You have a line? Like one little...
I do not remember, no.
Oh, okay. Because, by the way, we didn't meet just at Ultra Flat Black. We met at the Poetry Slam in particular. Yes. Is that right? Yes. And so we probably should give a little bit of a shout out to our friend Arthur Belfield, or Art the Poet, who put together this Poetry Slam and has brought people like Renee and I and others together.
Yes.
And now you are learning about all these different things.
Yes, I feel like he's like the father of our poetry group. Like he really does put everything together for us, and I really appreciate him.
We joke about me being slightly older than him, but I don't care. I think I love that. I'm going to call him the father of this.
Father poetry.
That's right. Your father poetry. That's what I'm calling you. What else do we want to talk about? Will you talk about some other things you like to do as far as paint, or what is it, painting?
Yeah, actually, so I mentioned that I did like digital art for the illustrations on this book, which I really wanted it to be really, colorful. Like I feel like most poetry books on the market are very black and white, and they're just the line drawings, and I wanted it to be really colorful and detailed, so I did that. This go around though with my second one, I think, I've already decided that I wanted to do painting by hand, go back to my roots, and do watercolor. So I've already started on a few of those. and it feels more genuine. It feels more me, because digital art was new to me there. But so I do some painting, and every now and then I'll just create a new piece. I'm new to watercolor, and I'm experimenting with it, and it's a lot of fun while creating this book.
And I'm bad at pronouncing crochet.
Yeah.
What exactly is it that you do with that? And I don't want to assume people even know what that is, because I'm not sure I 100% know what it is. What is that? What are you doing?
So it's like knitting. It's like the sister to knitting. I haven't learned to knit, but crochet is a bit easier, I think. And I create a bunch of things. I've made hats for my children. I made a dragon costume for my son for Halloween last year, crocheted that. I've made scarves, blankets. Right now I'm making a bunch of little pumpkins for fall. I also do macrame. So I've made a lot of macrame pieces. I like to go out into the woods, find my own stick for the base, and so like I made a crochet hanging chandelier just last night, and I got a bunch of sticks from my backyard, and I like shaved them off and I tied them together, and then strung a bunch of like crochet pumpkins and fall things from it. It's just always random things. You never know what I'm gonna make. Yes, but I'm always creating something.
Awesome. And I'm a creative slice. We're back, and we often talk about the different influences, and frankly, almost every great artist, maybe I should take out the word almost. I think every great artist I know is in some way inspired by something shroomotic, and we have different, perspectives of what we do or don't want to share.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Well, I think, aside from this one, which is all happy, but my next one, in which I really want to be real and vulnerable, it really touches on deepest parts of my childhood where, now my parents, I love them dearly, and we have great relationships today. They aren't who they used to be, but there was a good chunk of my life where there was a lot of like drunken nights. They were both alcoholics, really heavy though. And so there was a lot of terrible things that would happen, and it was just so there's a couple that I mentioned about some of those drunken nights, and me being the older sibling. Well, my oldest sister, she left at like 15, and so then it was just me, and then my younger sister, who was probably 11 at the time, or 12, and then my little brother, who was, 5 or 6. And so I ended up having to take care of them on some of those drunken nights, and so I touch on that a lot. And there's some sexual trauma that I touch on as well, and I'll probably share one of those tonight at Slam. That I think most women sadly can relate to, and I really wanted to share that just because I had to write about it to heal from it. And I had to heal, through some of the childhood trauma by writing about it as well. So and then also that's why the book also has the nature of God, because in the trauma, in the deepest, saddest, the most difficult parts of my life or my childhood is where I found God. And I ended up finding Him kind of on my own, where I'd go out to the woods and to nature. So it's all combined. I got the nature aspect and the God aspect and the healing that came from the trauma. And so I'd go out to nature and I would find God there, and eventually I got saved. And when my parents weren't necessarily guiding me because they were doing their own thing and I had no guidance, He guided me. And so I really wanted to give Him the gratitude for that, because yes, there was darkness, but there was also light at the end. So I wanted it to be a bit of both.
Well, and I thank you very much for sharing both the perspective of what you went through and the religious perspective. Because honestly, I am not a religious person, and I've noticed different guests who have come on the show have had different experiences, some positive, some negative.
Yes.
And I appreciate that you're willing to share without necessarily proselytizing or berating and saying, how dare you not believe.
Yes.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think there's just a lot of people that have been so hurt by Christians in this world, and if you've been really hurt by a Christian, they were probably not doing the will of God or the will of Jesus, as one of the poems in the book, and one of them I'll probably share tonight, is they hurt him too, is what the title is called, and it touches on the fact that Jesus was hurt himself by religious people, and he didn't hurt you, but yes, people have, and people are very imperfect and like to misconstrue everything. And so, and I'm sorry if you've ever been hurt, or to the audience, if you've ever been hurt by a Christian, I assure you it wasn't Jesus, okay? But I don't like to put pressure on anyone. I just like to share the gratitude in my heart, and it's just another one of the passionate things in my life. So that's why I talk about it.
And another thing that I appreciate from you and several others is sometimes I hear stories about certain things, and in some ways I'm completely different perspective. I was not raised in Christianity, for example, but other things very much are similar, because there very much was religious trauma. It's not Christian trauma, it was Jewish people who were better than everyone else, at least they thought. Again, not all Christians, not all Jews, not all anything, but I appreciate that I can sometimes hear someone with a completely different background who has had a similar traumatic experience to something I've been through.
Yeah, I myself have had some religious trauma, but I reminded myself that it was the church who hurt me. It wasn't, it wasn't God. So I have to remind myself of that, and I just want to spread love and light and truth wherever I go.
Speaking of spreading, you wanted to read something else, I think, right?
I can.
Well, I think we should get a couple more in.
Maybe. Okay.
What else? Because what would you like to share?
Well, I shared one of the fantasy things going on in my head, but I can share a real one of when my husband and I. He was in 2019. We were very seriously contemplating divorce, and we were both in really dark spots, and we kind of fell off our relationship with God at the same time. And so, we were about to divorce, but it was our anniversary that was coming up. We decided we were going to go out into the woods and do kind of a camping thing, and have the kids and Nana watch them. And so we did, and this was in Kentucky, mind you, in June, and it was very hot and humid, and I talk about that in the poem. And this was how we healed, the moment that we healed and became one again. So I'll share that one with you.
All right.
It's a very raw, real one. Okay. This one is called Kiss Away the Tears. Hands clasped we venture into a dense summer wood, an expedition of immense alert, humid air of words unspoken. Our hands we hold with hearts still broken. Fear of hope fading, bitterness in a sealed glass jar, once immersed in love, now waiting. We curse the road that led this far. Look at me with eyes welling, trails of tears, sweat, and rain. We taste the elixir of healing, kiss the droplets away with our pain. Don't give up on me, a heavy breathed plea as sun fades into night. Love we make slow on roots of a tree, our candles reunite.
Your writing is so beautiful. It just sounds nice. You just so. But I'll take a nice final slice time, I think. Where do we find you for people who love all that they have heard and want to hear more?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm taking a social media break currently, but my content is still there. It's Renee, RENEE_Marie. And Facebook, Renee Cooper. You should see me, my curly hair pop up. It's me. I don't know my TikTok. I don't really use TikTok, so I guess Instagram is probably the best place to find me. Yeah.
Okay. And before we're going to kind of wrap it up with a final little thing, any final kind of words you want to say as we close out?
Well, we talked about religious trauma, and I have the poem I really wanted to share about that, and I think it gives some insight. So it's called They Hurt Him Too, the one I mentioned. You have religious trauma, So did he. It was the religious leaders that nailed him to the tree. Religion was never his intention. He came from heaven to set you free, to offer up true love, to fill your empty heart with his overwhelming peace. Yet man has distorted God all throughout history, twisting the word until it resembles hell's mutiny. It's a ploy by Satan, this cult-like divinity, so that when the church, full of man, hurts you deeply, you'll blame the Holy Trinity. Reject perfect love, his invitation for eternity, then wallow in your earthly misery, and hold out your hands to be chained in captivity. You'll call it religious trauma, but Satan will call it victory.
Well, that's very nice. I really look forward to hearing more of your writing. We're going to hear more of you at the Poetry Slam. Are you performing other places or mostly Ultra Flat Black now?
Ultra Flat Black. I told Arthur if he's not there, I'm not in it, because like I said, he just makes the place feel so welcoming for poets, and so I'm excited to share more.
We've got some pressure on Father Poetry to keep it going.
Yes.
But thank you for doing this and doing the Poetry Slam. Thank you to Ultra Flat Black for so many things, including giving us the space here tonight and all of this beautiful art here. And thank you to Renee for coming on and sharing so much.
And thank you for having the space for me to share.
Well, see you next time on Smokin' Poetry Podcast.